So Eric Adams, mayor of New York City, his career is just going down the toilet, as fast as humanly possible. And already there is a vulture that is circling the entire island of Manhattan right now. And he is ready to swoop in and take that carcass and move in. And that, of course, is former New York governor who was forced out of office, Andrew Cuomo, thinks he is going to be the next mayor of New York City. They have already planned a victory celebration coming up in early March. And the scary thing is, I think he's already the front runner at this point to be the next mayor of New York City.
Okay, let's assume you forget about the 11 or 12 or whatever women that he tried to grope and tried to come on to. And
which was corroborated with the investigation. I mean, there's no question.
No, it happened. And he's disgusting. He's a disgusting person, okay? Let's take that and put it on the side over here. Let's say when Mr. Cuomo left, there was a housing affordability problem that still hasn't been cleaned up in New York City. There was a crime and general public safety issue that was a drag to New York City, and it still is. There was a public transportation. These are under Cuomo. Understand, this is his, buddy. This is his public transportation problem. There was a general affordability. You can't live there where a Coca-Cola costs $12 or whatever it may be. There was a unsanitary environment that was so bad that trash piles were piled up in the street. That's a Cuomo, right? There was disastrous where it comes to traffic coordination. You can't even drive there. That was a Cuomo. That's what he left him. So what we have is the same thing coming back. I mean, New York City is like a damn third world country. I mean, it really is. I equate it to a place like Bogota or Mexico City, Tijuana, Mexico City, whatever. And people say, okay, we want him back. He's perfect for New York. It's a New York state of mind, I guess. I don't get it.
Look, I will say I just went to New York a couple weeks ago. It ain't that bad. Really, it's not. It's not what most of the media out there likes to.
That's not me talking. That's the media talking about.
Exactly. And it's not what the media says. I've been up and down there. It's got problems just like everywhere else. But I will say, in this city with millions and millions and millions of residents, these are the two guys. You got Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo. There is not another human being
in New York, of all places, yeah.
I mean, my God, you could throw a rock in that city and find somebody better than these people, no matter where you are in the city.
Yeah.
It is insane that this, and I swear I feel like it's mostly a Democrat problem. Why do we keep tapping the same wells? Why do we keep going back to these same damn people over and over and over?
It's a love affair with losers. That's why the Dems can't let go of Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or Pelosi.
That's why Biden ran in 2020. He should have been out of there.
Of course. There is it's some mental disconnect where they can't admit, this is a loser. Because it's their team, don't you see? It's their team. This is my coach. And I'm going to stay with the coach regardless of the fact that we've had a 0-12 season. We're going to stay with the coach. It is that mentality that is always, it's some type of weird derangement that always costs Democrats, and it's going to cost them here again. Now, I'm glad, I travel, I've been to New York a few times myself. I spent a lot of time in New York. I have seen those situations, the list I just gave you. Maybe it's transient. I mean, they've got sections in New York where they go to administer drugs. Go here, you can take your heroin. Right there in Brooklyn. I mean, or either Bronx or Brooklyn, where it's an area where the people that live around there say, what the hell? You're saying that this is a drug-safe haven where people can come shoot up and we're not going to have any crime problems? Those are the kinds of endemic problems that Cuomo left. There's nothing different. And then it's not just Eric Adams. His whole damn administration was corrupt. I mean, he had his key people having to plead guilty to horrendous crimes of bribery and fraud. I mean, come on, man.
Well, and Adams, had been serving in government as well before he. So that's the thing is, why do we not look to new people? Is the party really that afraid of change? Because if they are, go ahead and get the headstone ready right now because your party is dead.
Oh, it's-
You have to embrace other individuals. You have to accept the fact that, listen, sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes we put up the bad candidates. Sometimes these people are corrupt. It happens on both sides. It's just we're used to seeing it happen more on one side. But look, you guys are doing the same thing. Cuomo should not be allowed to run for any public office ever again. Adams should not be allowed. Menendez, well, he'll be in jail for the rest of his life. But what is it with this Northeast up here with your Democrats?
I don't know.
Get
man.
it together, guys.
It's LA. Look at LA. It's the same. It's the same story. I don't know.
No, I mean just these people that should be in jail.
I thought you were talking about the mental process, the mental process of the machine.
Oh, I'm just talking about the corruption that's taking place up there. That's just off the
Here's
chart.
the biggest problem to me. A brand change, to change a brand, right now the brand of Dems is toxic, it's unworkable, it's basically erratic and unpredictable. These are all, it's toxic brand. Who was it called it a stink? Warner.
Yeah.
Warner comes out and says they've got a stink that they can't get rid of. Okay, so to change a brand is difficult enough. I mean, if you want to change the brand of Coca-Cola, it's going to take a lot of work. You want to change that brand.
And it failed when they tried to do that with Nuco.
It sure did. So try changing the brand of a political party. Think of what it's going to cost, and think of what, if it's not a clear delineated change. These were the crazy people back then. Now we have sane people running things. If you can't make that transition, you're not going to change the brand.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So Matt, the lawsuits continue from Trump. You know, his first term in office, it was almost a standing joke. And the joke was, how many lawsuits today? And there were hundreds of lawsuits that were brought. But he's doing the second term, right? I mean, the same thing is happening all again, right?
It's Trump's tactics. So currently what we just saw actually the other day was a suit or an allegation of defamation on part of a man named Michael Wolff, who's writing what's going to be his, I believe, fourth book now on Trump. Trump says, these are anonymous sources. You can't do that. I have a libel case against you. Well, the reality is we know our standard against a public official for defamation is a very high bar. We have New York Times Sullivan, right?
Well, let's slow down on that. New York Times Sullivan is pretty clear. It goes in the idea that you can make a mistake. I mean, you can report and maybe not get it exactly right, but there has to be malice. You have to have an intent and malice to say, I'm going to harm that person. That's the standard. But that standard seems to be waning a little bit. When I see the cases right now that are being settled, not just with Trump, but other slander cases, libel cases, that standard is being softened. So Trump is really taking advantage of that. What kind of results is he getting already?
Yeah, well, he tends to push people around and drive settlements to that degree, or at least something to somewhat maybe possibly appease him, as we saw with the CBS 60 Minutes issue. And that one, is the case strong? Is it really there? No. But is there an incentive to go ahead and make the man at least at peace for now? And if we actually go ahead and pull up, within this man's 10 or 30-year career, we can go ahead and pull up right here. He's filed or been a part of almost 4,000 lawsuits.
4,000. Well, okay. The point is, though, Matt, you can't ignore it. It works for him. Right now he's got CBS on the hook. Yeah. CBS. we're talking about billions of dollars.
Right.
And if you really analyze that case, it is ugly. Certainly the editor took the film of Harris.
Right.
And they had to chop and cut it up and make it look like she actually had a brain.
Right.
And so his argument is that's really kind of interfering with the election process. You're interfering with the election process, and that's a serious offense. So right now, they're trying to save face, and they're trying to say, well, let's mediate. Let's go to the table and mediate. The last president that just left, as a matter of fact, said she thought she might even sit down and talk to him about $10 billion.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's his bread and butter. We go back to when he ran his casinos, over 1,600 lawsuits, all against creditors and following up on that. Interestingly enough, most of the contract claims were brought against him. And he had this famous idea of, he would say, well, I'm a developer, but he really was a brander. And so when push came to the contract, he would turn around and say, well, we don't own liability, I'm a brander. And it was actually a theory he explained to his lawyers and really pushed down with them. So he's been doing this for 30 years. And he carries the practice forward in office, even as president of the United States. He's sitting
Okay,
there.
so what's the latest? What with the Wolf thing? People who watch this program knows who Wolf is. I mean, you hate him or you love him. He's either credible or he's not. I've always taken the position, I don't know if he's really credible.
Yeah.
Farron Cousins, who does a show with me, says he is. What I look at, I don't know. I kind of fall right in between because it's always anonymous sources. It's always when we say, Mr. Wolf, put up or shut up. And I think that's where Trump believes he's going to win. That's what he's doing with Wolf. He's pushing him into a corner. He's saying, look, we have watched you, disparage the president, disparage Donald Trump, disparage Republicans for decades now. Mm-hmm. It's time that you put up or shut up, and that's what he's going to do in a courtroom.
Well, Pat, what Wolf needs to do is sit back and bank on the policy rationale for why we have such a high standard with actual malice. He needs to say, listen, as a private citizen, we have the right to criticize our president. As long as we have a good faith basis on what we're saying, we should have an argument to go after him, and he shouldn't have a basis for suit against us. And he's really got that policy rationale to stand on.
Yeah,
that's the first.
Well,
place
I mean, it's a First Amendment. That thank God we have a First Amendment. You look at the EU right now, God, they're just in disarray. The disarray is they're arresting people, going to their houses and arresting them for criticizing somebody publicly.
Right.
Okay, that's what they have. Now, we have a system that says, no, what are you talking about? We have a First Amendment right to say whatever we want to say. And if it's a public official, the standard is sky high. When it's a president, it's really high. So I don't see this really going anywhere from the standpoint of there being a clear victory for Trump. But I think Wolf needs to really be concerned about how far they're going to push him.
Right.
And what they're going to do is they're going to go back and they're going to look at the other stuff he's written. Now, this goes to the issue of malicious intent. How long has he been writing like this? What are some of the horrible things he said? What are some of the terrible things he said that we've disproved? And you're going to see that coming up in discovery.
Right.
And they're going to say, this is a pretty clear path of malice. I don't think Wolf is out of the woods on this.
You really don't?
I do not. I do not. Only because we're watching New York Times. They're taking a look and saying, we have to look at the trend, okay? We don't just look at one event. You understand?
Right.
You can say something and you can say, well, I didn't have malicious intent. Okay, great. Let's go back and look at your history. Let's put all these things together and then converge on the idea of whether this particular event involved malice.
And to that point, though, I mean, there's going to be the argument, the classic chilling effect quote, right? To what extent you now see public officials
no question about
popping these off, and the press is going to sit back and be reticent, reluctant to bring these stories forward. That's
I'm not saying this is a good idea.
Right.
Our job is to analyze.
Yeah.
And as I analyze this, when we lose the ability to be able, my God, look at what Farron and I do on this show every week.
Yeah.
We go after the people that we think have done bad things. And we say some outrageous things sometimes. But the point is, if you go back and you say, what was their malicious intent? You're not going to find it like you might with Wolf. I think when you string everything together with Wolf, you may have a different story.
You know what? He's got a couple books on him. There's a lot to parse through.
It
sounds like they have a long-standing history, and so maybe Trump picked it. Maybe he got the right target on this issue, and Wolf's in trouble.
He certainly has a good target. I'll put it like that.
He would be the first president in American history to win a defamation case. So there's always that issue too. So,
thanks for joining me.
Absolutely, sir.